Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning to you all, and let me start by thanking our brothers in the Kingdom of Bahrain and IISS for convening this summit at a time when all of us have to speak loud and clear about the catastrophe that the Israeli war is bringing, not just on Gaza, but on the region in general. This is not a time for mincing of words. This is a time to state facts as they are. This is not self-defense. This is a blatant aggression, the victims of which are innocent Palestinians. Over 11,000 Palestinians have been killed thus far, the majority of whom are children. Almost 67% of them are children. The humanitarian catastrophe resulting from this is beyond words. People crowding UNRWA shelters have no access to food or water. We're looking at the high possibility of a breakout of disease with no sanitation facilities, no medicine, with 61% of health infrastructure destroyed. In those shelters, there is one unit shower for every 700 Palestinian. There is one toilet for 160 Palestinian. The food, the medicine that has been allowed into Gaza since October 21st is less than 10% of the needs of Gazans under normal circumstances. This war is not taking us anywhere but towards more conflict and more suffering, and the threat of expanding into regional wars. Israel says it wants to wipe out Hamas. There's a lot of military people here. I just do not understand how this objective can be realized. We look at facts on the ground again. The facts on the ground that most of those killed are civilians. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places on earth. The shelling, the attacks on Gazans is again destroying whole communities. 1.65 million Palestinians have been displaced. In percentage terms, that's about displacing 275 million Americans. 275 million Americans are the equivalent in percentage terms of the Palestinians who have been displaced. They're being told to leave the north, to go to the south. Yesterday, you all saw the news, the south is being bombarded. So basically the message, we're not going to kill you in the north, we're going to kill you in the south. This got to stop. There's nothing that can justify the continuation of this brutality because it's not bringing security to Israel, it's not bringing peace to the region. We all condemned the killing of Israeli civilians on October 7. And we said we do so consistent with our common humanity, with our values, with international law. Nobody could justify the killing of civilians. None. And if I may refer to a speech made by His Majesty in Cairo not too long ago. His Majesty referred to the Al-Uhda Al-Amariya, the Pact of Umar, where Muslim soldiers, 1,000 years before Geneva, were marching to war under the instructions of don't kill a woman, don't kill a child, don't kill an elderly, and don't even cut a tree. So killing civilians is not part of any culture, any religion, any faith. And we stand very clearly, unequivocally against that. But what Israel is doing now is killing civilians. And not only is it not condemning the killing of civilians, it is killing them. And that has got to stop again because that's not going to take us anywhere. I can go into giving you lots of facts, lots of details. They'll all point to one thing only. There is a catastrophe happening, a flagrant aggression. It's got to stop for the sake of the Palestinians, for the sake of Israelis, for the sake of the whole region to be able to live in peace. And again, putting things in context is important. The conflict, as many of you have heard a lot of people saying, did not start on October 7. There's a history to that. For years, we've been warning against the absence of political horizon. For years, we've been warning that the blockage of any horizon towards solving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is going to drag us exactly into this moment. For years, we've been saying the fallacy of assuming that you can parachute over the Palestinian issue to create regional peace is wrong. It will only bring disaster. And here we are. Show me who's talking about any regional project at this point. Who's talking about integration? It's all about war. Because there is an occupation that has not ended, and there are no prospects of ending it. Gaza, I think you all can see what's happening in Gaza. However, there's very little attention being given to what's happening in the West Bank. Every day, there are 6 settlers' attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank. Every day. So far, over 200 Palestinians have been killed. The Armenian quarter in Jerusalem cannot be accused of being a Hamas hideout. Listen to what the Armenian community has been saying. 16th century existence is being threatened now by settlers who are going to that community, trying to destroy it, with the police watching and facilitating. And settlers are attacking Armenians with attack dogs day in, day out. Is this a war against Hamas? I think we've got to say facts as they are. This war has to stop, and has to stop immediately. Civilians have a right to protection. Denial of food, medicine, fuel to Gazans is a war crime. We have to call it out as a war crime because it is. International law has to apply to all. The message that's being sent, given the fact that this war is continuing, Israel not listening to anybody despite the tremendous efforts that I know a lot of making, Israel is not abiding by international law. So what's the message here? Israel can do whatever it wants. That is the message that our people are seeing. That's what the whole world is seeing. Israel is above the law. General Assembly resolution calling it to allow humanitarian pauses. Did not listen. Security Council resolution, again, too late, but still a step in the right direction, urging Israel to stop for a humanitarian pause. It's not listening. Where do we go from here? And let me just be clear. Gaza alone, looking to the future, is not going to work. Looking at the conflict from a purely security prism, it's just going to make things worse. We've seen what that approach has done on the West Bank. So we will not entertain any idea of looking at Gaza alone. Let me be very clear. I know, speaking on behalf of Jordan, but having discussed this issue with almost all our brethren, there'll be no Arab troops going to Gaza. None. We're not going to be seen as the enemy. And one very, very important thing, how could anybody talk about the future of Gaza when we do not know what kind of Gaza will be left once this aggression ends? So basically, by entertaining that, we're telling the Israeli government, do whatever you want. Go, destroy Gaza. Nobody is stopping you. And once you're done, we'll go clean your mess. No, we will not. If we want to talk about what should be done in Gaza in the future, we should stop the destruction of Gaza now. That is the message that we should all understand. The only way to move forward and secure the peace that has been a strategic choice for us, we've worked for decades for that. The Arab Peace Initiative goes back to 2002, where the offer was full peace, full normal ties and relations for ending occupation. It's not there. It has not been listened to. So we want strategic. We want peace as a strategic objective. We don't want our region to have to relive the horrors that are being imposed on it right now. But to do that, you're not going to be doing it by war. You're not going to do it by looking at Gaza, keeping Gaza as an open prison, besieged from every direction. The only way you do that is to end occupation, produce peace on the basis of the two-state solution that will allow all peoples of the region to live with dignity, to live with freedom, without the fear of being arrested at every corner or being shot at every turn. We've got to act, and we've got to act strong. Priorities for now, priority number one, stop this war. Stop this aggression, stop the killing of civilians, stop the killing of women and children. Priority number two, immediately allow for humanitarian supplies into Gaza. A whole population is being besieged, 2.3 million. How is this okay? It's just impossible to comprehend. Number three, once we do all of that, there's got to be an approach once and for all to end this conflict once and for all on the basis of the two-state solution that will fulfill the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to freedom and statehood and will address Israel's security concern. That is the only way to go forward. Other than that, we'll be living this scenario year in, year out, just like we've been for many decades before. What will Gaza produce after this? Israel says again it's want to wipe out Hamas. I said it before and I say it again. Hamas is an idea. You cannot bomb an idea out of existence. You're not happy with what Hamas is doing, convince the Palestinian people that they have a future and that Hamas is standing between them and that future. Thus far, that argument has not been made. Reality has not shown that. Palestinian people have been left with nothing left to lose. On the West Bank, in Gaza. Are we not going to learn? We're facing a major challenge here. Another victim of the war is the environment of peace that took a lot of hard work for us to get to it. How can you convince any Jordanian, any Egyptian, any Arab, anybody now that negotiations are really going to work and that we can engage in regional integration projects? So killing the faith in the viability of negotiations as a path to peace is one outcome of this ugly war. Another victim, credibility of international law. The selective application of international law. And I will say it again. If any other country in the world has done a fragment of what Israel did, will be sanctions imposed on it from every corner of the world now. The whole world is telling Israel, even those who recognize it as self-defense, we don't recognize that, let me be clear. This is not self-defense, it cannot be justified as self-defense. But those who accept that are telling Israel to act within the realm of international law. It's not. So where do we go from there? Keep telling them to do it, they keep refusing to do it. What happens? People are being killed day in, day out. And then we're supposed to come and clean the mess after Israel. That's not going to happen. At least that's our position. What we want to do, what the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan wants to do with all our friends and partners, is to, once this war ends, once the suffering ends, to again look at how we can all work together, once and for all solve this conflict, and that conflict can only be solved if occupation ends and the rights of Palestinians to freedom are realized and statehood, and the rights of Israel's security are addressed. And that's why we're looking to work with all our partners. The US has a leading role to play in this effort. Nothing will move without a US leadership role, let's be honest about it, in terms of making the peace. We need our friends in Europe, and we in the region need to do our part. However, there are so many variables that we don't know as of yet. We don't know, again, what kind of Gaza will be left once this war ends. We don't know what kind of a political orientation is going to be prevailing within the Israeli government. And before I close, just one thing. What's happening now, the displacement of people, is consistent with what sitting Israeli ministers have been saying for years. Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, religious Zionism, parties, they've all for years been saying the only way to move forward is to kick the Palestinians out of their ancestral land and wipe the Palestinians out of the face of the earth. When it comes, just one little side, when it comes to displacement, I think we made our position very clear in Jordan. I think our brothers in Egypt have made that same position as well very, very clear. We will never allow that to happen. in addition to it being a war crime that will be a direct threat to our national security, will do whatever it takes to stop it. I just want to close again by just one last sentence. I'm sorry if I took more time. I didn't have a watch to look at it. But I'll just say one thing. The priority now, before we talk about what's going to be done next, we have to stop this war. We have to stop the killing. And again, we need all to come together to produce the peace that we believe is the only path to ensuring security for Palestinians, for Israelis. Our position is every life matters, Palestinian, Israeli. We should do everything we can to stop the horrors that we see unfolding from happening again. The path to that is a just and lasting peace on the basis of the two-state solution. We stand ready to work with all our partners to make sure that this is achieved. Thank you so much.
Minister, thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much. Allow me first to say a couple of words on the issue of hostages. I think it's been very, very clear from day number one that we all have urged the release of civilians. The Arab League meeting, ministerial meeting, which took place within days from the October 7, we all urged the release of civilians. So that is a standard, that's a solid position, and we all know that a lot of work is being done to do that. But I just don't find it acceptable that Israel links a humanitarian pause to the release of hostages. The release of hostages, again, we all support it. There's a lot of negotiations. But Israel is taking 2.3 million Palestinians hostage in the process by denying them food and water and by this war. So yes to the release of hostages, but no to linking humanitarian pauses to the release of hostages, because the impact of that, the consequences of that, is starving 2.3 million Palestinians. Yesterday, the day before, at the Foreign Ministry in Jordan, we were getting calls from all over, including from someone called Dr. Nahad Saba, a Gazan Christian, pleading with us that his mother and 400 other people are being held hostage at a Latin monastery in Gaza. He's saying they don't have water, they don't have food, and he was asking if we could take them to our hospital, which is 4 kilometers away, which we said we'd gladly do, but we have no means because Israelis are shooting at everybody who's moving. So I think that's a reality that we need to understand. Our own hospital came under attack. 7 of our people who've been, our hospital has been in Gaza since 2009. 7 of our military medical staff were wounded. We did not have a Hamas tunnel under our hospital, nor does the Latin monastery in Gaza that has a Hamas tunnel. So we gotta be, quite honest about how things are evolving in Gaza there. We've seen what happened at Al-Shifa. How many people, how many babies were off the incubators because of the siege, and the whole of Gaza is besieged. Let me just say also to our colleague from Korea, be careful with sort of characterizations that are not anchored in reality. I mean, it's so easy to speak in black and white and throw characterizations. No, you cannot compare Hamas to ISIS. We all condemn the killing on October 7. But those broader characterizations seem to ignore the fact that Hamas did not create the conflict. The conflict created Hamas. Why is Hamas there? Because there continues to be an occupation that's denying Palestinian people their right. We in Jordan and all of us in the Arab world have always said negotiations are the path to peace. None of us endorsed violence. But reality is negotiations have not produced peace. And Israel continues to occupy Palestinian territories and continues to consolidate Palestinian territories. Mr. Magek and I were in the same room when we had the Aqaba Sharm meetings. We had small steps that we agreed on. Steps that would just release some funds for the Palestinians to be able to put food on the table, among some other measures that would have created some calm. Israel signed this document in Aqaba. A month later, it implemented nothing. We met in Sharm el-Sheikh. We again reiterated the need for those measures to be implemented. Israel did not implement. Israeli politicians are saying they want to suffocate the Palestinian people's aspirations for statehood. So let's look at the broader sort of environment. Again, what we did in Jordan, we've been doing a lot for decades. We've signed a peace treaty with Israel 30 years ago almost. And that peace treaty was signed within the context of a collective Arab approach after Oslo Accords were signed to get to a comprehensive regional peace. People forget that Oslo Accords were signed as a transitional period for 4 to 5 years, after which a Palestinian state should have emerged. Israel did not honor that. Meanwhile, I think as Joseph said, number of settlements have increased by 400% on the West Bank. So again, let's put things in context. This conflict did not begin on October 7. This conflict will continue to haunt the region unless the root cause of this conflict, which is occupation, ends. And we all have been working together. The US has been supporting the two-state solution. Europe has been supporting the two-state solution. All of us in the Arab world have been supporting the two-state solution. Why don't we have a two-state solution? Because Israel does not want to have a two-state solution. And if it's not a two-state solution, then what it is? It is continued conflict. It is a reality of apartheid, because a one-state reality will not solve the conflict. And we'll find ourselves here and there in the same spot. So I'm telling you that what Jordan wants is a comprehensive, just and lasting peace that will give the Palestinians their rights and that will ensure the security of Israelis. We're not taking side on who has the right to peace or not. Everybody has a right to peace. Palestinians have a right to peace. Israelis have a right to peace. But let's be honest about it. Israel will not have security until Palestinians have security. The whole region will not have security until this conflict is solved. What we're working for, what we've been working for, is to create conditions that would take us towards that peace, that will make sure every Palestinian Israeli live in peace. That is what I've been working for, and that's what we've been trying to do. And I think the only way we can move forward and make sure this doesn't happen again is to go back to the drawing board and say, why are we here? And the answer is simple: occupation that has no prospects of ending, and then work together to end that so that Palestinians and Israelis share the land, and as His Majesty said not too long ago, so that there's peace and two states between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean. Without that, let's not fool ourselves. We're going to be in this over and over and over again. And just one point, if I may, last point on Gaza. Again, Israel is creating an ugly reality in Gaza. We cannot just wait until it's done with creating that reality and then come and say, let's fix it. I think what we need to do is to come in now and very strongly and stop Israel from creating the misery that Gaza is definitely is actually, and the worst misery that's going to be when the war stops. So what we're saying, the priority now must be on stopping the war if we are going to know what we're dealing with. But just like allowing somebody to come here with a torch and torching the whole place, and we're all watching, and once they're done, we'll say, thank you so much, now let's put the fire out. That's not how we're going to work.
Minister, thank you very much.